Hey guys, it's Sarah from New England Junk Journals, and I am super excited to start this first installment in the Use Up an Entire Fabric Sample Book series. So I want to start out this series obviously at the beginning. So I have my fabric sample book here in its entirety, and I'm going to show you in this video, hopefully, how to one, take this fabric sample book apart, and two, how to prepare your pieces, i.e. getting rid of the paper backing that is on the backs of your samples. Now for some of these, I was able to just peel them off, and I don't even know if I can find an example right now. This one with mixed results. Sometimes they start out like they're going to be very easy to peel off, and then you find them starting to rip. So like this one, this came off pretty well. There's a tiny piece of paper here. If it's that much, I'm not going to worry about it. But I'll go through and I'll show you how I remove as much of the paper as possible and what to do if the paper doesn't come off. There are ways around it and ways to use it with the paper still on. That probably won't be in this video, but it will be in this series. All right, so first thing we're going to do is to lift off this top section here. And for that, I have this little crowbar. I also have a few other items here. I have a clear ruler for later. I have a rotary cutter. I have my utility knife as a backup. I have a rotary cutting mat. And then off to the side, I do have my hot iron, and I don't have like a little ironing board, but I do have a whole bunch of big pieces of fabric, like large sections of fabric. So I'm just going to fold one of those up several times over, and that will be my ironing board. So first step is you're going to come in with your crowbar and you're just going to loosen the edges. This does not take a whole lot of effort at all. It pops off pretty quickly. Most of this is held together with like hot glue and staples. The staples are the part that's going to be the most difficult. But in this book, okay, now they don't all come out that easy. Kind of getting lucky with this one. Yeah, they just lift out, and then of course you're going to want to take those off as soon as possible because you don't want to be poking yourself with those staples. So I'm just going to set that aside. There will be staples, I believe, coming in from the back of this as well. So we're just going to pull off this section here. Great piece of acetate or light plastic. I'll save that for later. There are things you can do with that. I don't know if I'll try to incorporate it in this series as well. The rest of this is going to be, for me, the most difficult part, which is ripping the fabric pieces apart that have been glued together. You guys know that my wrists are pretty bad. So with this, sorry, I don't even know if I got my head in there, sorry. What I'm gonna do with this is simple. I'm just going to cut this with fabric scissors, and I'll end up with a slightly smaller pieces, but that's fine. These are small pieces to begin with. So I'm gonna set that aside right now, and I don't have my scissors on the table with me, so when I come back, I'll show you that all done. So I'm going to set these aside as we pull them off. You're gonna get some like strings and unraveling. Very normal with these. And some of them will, like the top, the glue's just stuck on there. So I would take either some pinking shears or some good fabric scissors, and again, I'll just cut that off. You'll notice that there are holes here at the top anyway. And a variety of weights. All right, give me 1 second. I am gonna go and get my fabric scissors, and I will be right back. So I am back with my pinking shears, and I do want to go over the top of this just to prevent any further fraying. And pinking shears don't completely prevent fraying, but they can definitely help. All right, so let's keep going here. And this spring fabric sample book was the overwhelming winner when I took a poll of which of these books that you guys wanted to see me make, or use, I should say. So I'm really excited. There's a lot of great colors and great pieces in here. Lots of variety. And yeah, lots of fraying, and that's just gonna happen. It's really hard to avoid. And these are fairly new pinking shears. They're Westcott, but I don't know, I don't like them all that much. But again, I'm probably not using them on the correct materials anyway. Probably made for regular cotton fabric. But I love all of this really gorgeous embroidery. Oh, yeah, and I can start to feel, can you see right there, the staples coming up. So before I go any further, I am going to try, there we go, to lift this completely off so that I don't poke myself further. And then this can all get set aside. And you are going to have a lot of little fibers on your workspace. So I do have a lot of ideas on what to do with these as we go along. I know we'll be making a patchwork journal cover with these. That will probably be our first project that we're gonna work on. I've recently seen Diane Hubert from Pretty Pink Cottage. She was making an adorable journal cover, well, a complete journal, but her journal cover is a patchwork journal cover that's completely fabric, and it like folds over. It has like a panel that folds over. And I have never made a cover that was completely fabric before. So I want to try to attempt that. A little bit daring, especially because I I don't have this thing completely planned out. I have it 90% planned out. And the last 10% is just gonna be improv. I do know we'll make a journal together. I do know we will embellish the inside of it and complete it. So we're going to have a bunch of little projects. For example, we'll probably be making some fabric tabs to go on our pages. We will be making pockets and clusters and ruffles, those sorts of things. Some fabric tags, and then we will take stock of what we have left and we will do some scrap busting with it. Things that we can make either in addition to go in our journal, or things that we will have available to use in a later project. Kind of like ways to build our stash of notions and ephemera. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of these scissors, to be honest. But when you have to have pinking shears, there we go. We've got a lot of like very upholstery style fabrics, but we also have these great, you know, cottons and, okay, hang on. And this is, yep, 100% cotton. Beautiful. I was just checking because sometimes you'll get like silk, sometimes you'll get linen, sometimes you'll get polyester. Like I can tell already that this is polyester. And lots. I should get my lint roller out to help with this. But, so you're just gonna go along and tear these pieces. Oh, 2 for 1 on that. Almost down to the end. And hopefully you can't hear too much of what's going on in the background. I have my dishwasher going because I'm all set up in my kitchen here. There's a lot more space and I can go ahead and plug in my hot iron, my clothes iron. But also my mom's cat that we are watching is in the background trying to catch birds out the window. He just takes a running leap and jumps all 4 feet against the window thinking he will catch something. Yeah. All right, so I'm gonna clean all of this up here and I am gonna come back and set this up with my hot iron and we will start taking the backings off of these. All right guys, so I'm back. I have my iron here and I'm hoping it's hot enough. I have my pile of fabrics here. I did kind of go over them with a lint brush just to kind of get the superficial amount of lint off. And we are going to start ironing these off. Now I have my butcher block countertop here, but I do have several layers of fabric from, you know, just a bolt of fabric that I haven't been using, and I've layered that up quite a bit to help protect my surface. And yeah, let's see what we can do. I have mine set to the very beginning of the cotton setting. So it's going to be quite hot. And one thing to note is that the older your fabric sample book is, the more likely the glue will be old and easier to pull away from the fabric. So if you have like a very, very vintage sample book, you may be able to just peel them off quite nicely without even going to this step. But these are not vintage. These were recently discontinued. So we're going to see. There we go. You can see that start to pull away. And that came off quite nice in its entirety. And as of now, I don't feel any sticky residue left over, so that's a good sign. So we're gonna keep going with these. And we'll see if we run into any that are too difficult to get off. That one, so beautiful. You're gonna find your nice plain cottons should be the easiest, I think. Very good. You're gonna see this side is a little bit discolored where that glue was, but this is our facing side of the material anyway. And if you have a fabric sample book, and if you have fabric samples that you are doing this to, and you notice that some of this is coming up onto your iron, you know, you could just cool it down, wipe it off, and then if you know that your papers are doing that, just iron it from the other side. That will also loosen up the glue. Because the last thing that you want to do is get the ink on your iron and then have it rub off onto your fabric. That would not be good. And be careful because this is hot. It's definitely hot. A little bit worried about pulling up. I don't know if you can see, but every time I pull up, the fabric the threads just want to come up with it. So I will spend a little extra time seeing if I can loosen it further. If not, I'll show you what we can do with it without having to remove the paper later on. That is quite hot. So it does come off, but the back looks rough. So Okay. So not super ideal, but we can still use it. I'm thinking that it's just going to end up getting glued down again. At least this part of it. This part, we might be able to do something else with it. But I'm thinking, fabric tags maybe. Very nice. Now you're gonna wanna be careful on, especially pieces that are like maybe polyester or some other synthetic material. You don't want to give them too much heat because you don't want them, ouch, you don't want them to melt. So here's the thing. Are we gonna be able to pull off any more paper? Ideally, you do want the whole paper to be on here to be able to iron these off. But we'll see what we can do. Yep, I think that's all we're gonna be able to get off of this one. And that's okay. Be very careful, guys. This is very hot. All right, guys, well, I have finished ironing these and I'll show you. I got this pile of fabrics that the paper came off beautifully, no problems whatsoever. And then I have a smaller pile where you'll see I did have some residue here, a lot back there, some little bits here. Just a very little bit here. This probably didn't even need to be in this pile. I'm gonna move this over because what's on here is quite minimal. But I have some here, and I'm just going to show you one thing you can do if you absolutely want to use this fabric and you want to use the whole thing and you want to get the paper off. So I found that slow down, be methodical. Don't be afraid to let the iron sit on there for a little while. Obviously you don't want it to burn, but the longer you let it sit, the better chance you are going to have these come away cleanly. It is a bit of trial and error, and you know, like my poor fingertips are quite sensitive and red because that paper gets very hot, and so I did burn myself a little bit as I was going along. So I'm gonna set up and just show you one last thing that you can do that I've done before to get the paper off and give you some tips about doing that. All right, so I have a little tub here, and I'm just gonna pour some water in here, and it's warm, just about hot. You don't want it boiling, you don't want it over warm. And I'm just going to take a few of these pieces just to show you, and we're gonna submerge them. Again, this is not gonna work with every fabric, but I'm going to do it on a couple of them. This is kind of like one of those emergency things, you know what I mean? Like, you really want to use the fabric, and I would say at your own risk a little bit with this. And I'm just going to add a few drops of dish detergent to help this work a little bit better. I've previously used it with laundry detergent, and that also works. And I'm just going to take these three and I will show you my results. We're going to let them sit for a little bit, but after not very long, you can see that the paper wants to just roll off. If you're doing this with a lot of fabric, more than 3 pieces, I would suggest using gloves. And again, I would go slowly. And again, your mileage may vary with this, depending on the type of fabric you're using. Another tip, don't dry these in a dryer. Once you've gotten the paper off of them and the glue, you'll probably have a little bit of glue residue left, but no paper. I would gently wring them out, very, very gently, and let them dry flat. To have the least amount of distortion of your fabric as possible. So we also have a little bit here. I don't know if you can see, but that is pretty much coming off right there. And a lot of this has come off. You can continue to just use your fingernail to roll off as much paper and or glue as possible. Being careful, you don't want to keep fraying this edge. And I think I'm going to call that good. I'm going to lay that right on this fabric here as flat as possible. And I will show you what it looks like when these pieces are all dry. All right, guys, here we are at the end of the day. These have been drying for several hours now, and I was able to get most of the paper off. You can still see a little bit here, but we will be able to use this fabric in ways where you're not going to notice that. We'll sew it down. And because most of the paper is off, it's very flexible. We can use it pretty much how we want. You're going to notice that because we use that water, there is slightly more fraying than normal. These, of course, since I dried them flat without any heat, they didn't really shrink a whole lot, which is good. You may have little bits of paper that settled on the reverse side of the fabric, but you're just gonna scrape those or brush those off and you'll be fine. So yeah, there we go. These are not 100% dry, but I don't think that they're really gonna shrink any. And if you absolutely want to use a piece of fabric and you wanna get all the paper off, it's a good thing to try. So yeah, I think that's gonna do it for this video. Stay tuned. I actually have a bunch of fabric over here and something that I've been working on all day. You'll see that in the next episode. The next episode, we will be putting our cover together. So stay tuned for that. I'm super excited. It did not turn out 100% how I envisioned it, but I really do like it. It is not perfect. And I would make some changes next time, particularly the batting that I use. I would get something that doesn't have as much give to it because I did have some shifting. But enough of that. Come back next time to see how it turned out. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next video. Thank you so much. Bye.